The first tremor hit San Francisco at 3:47 p.m. on a clear autumn afternoon. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her laboratory window, watching her coffee ripple in its mug before the second tremor knocked it completely off the desk. The seismological readings made no sense. These weren't earthquakes. They were impact tremors. Through the reinforced windows of the Xenobiology Research Center, Sarah watched as the sky transformed. What started as pinpricks of light evolved into massive obsidian shapes descending through the clouds. The ships, if they could be called that, resembled nothing made by human hands. Their surfaces shifted like liquid metal, reflecting the sun's rays in impossible patterns. Dr. Chen, you need to see this. Dr. James Rodriguez, her research partner, burst into the lab, tablet in hand. The electromagnetic readings are off the charts. Whatever these things are, they're not using any propulsion system we know of. Before Sarah could respond, the bottom of the nearest vessel began to transform. The liquid metal surface rippled and parted, revealing a darkness deeper than the void of space. From this darkness, they emerged. The creatures defied conventional biology. Each one was the size of a small building, with bodies that seemed to blend multiple Earth species into something entirely new. They had the general shape of large cats, but their skin was covered in overlapping plates that shifted like scales. Their heads bore crown-like formations of crystalline structures, and their eyes, all 6 of them, glowed with an inner light that changed colors in rapid succession. "My God," Sarah whispered, pressing her hand against the glass. "They're perfect." As a xenobiologist, she had spent her career theorizing about potential forms of alien life. But nothing in her research had prepared her for this. The creatures moved with impossible grace for their size, each motion precise and calculated. This wasn't just an invasion force. These were the pinnacle of bioengineering. The military response was immediate and futile. Tanks rolled through the streets of San Francisco. Helicopters swarmed the sky, but conventional weapons seemed to barely scratch the creature's armored hide. Sarah watched in horror as one of the beasts simply walked through a barrage of artillery fire, its plates shifting to deflect the shells. "We need to evacuate," James insisted, pulling at her arm. "The building isn't safe." But Sarah couldn't move. Something about the creature's behavior caught her attention. Their attacks weren't random. They were systematic, targeting military installations and infrastructure while seemingly avoiding areas of dense civilian population. These weren't mindless beasts. They were following a strategy. The revelation hit her like a physical force. "They're not the enemy," she said, turning to James. "They're weapons. Look at their behavior patterns, their biological structure. Someone engineered these creatures for warfare, but they're not acting with the full aggression they're capable of. It's like they're holding back." A deafening roar shook the building, and one of the creatures landed on the street, directly outside their laboratory. Its massive head turned toward the window, and Sarah found herself staring directly into its eyes. The shifting colors stabilized, settling into a deep azure that reminded her of Earth's oceans. In that moment, something passed between them, a recognition. The creature's pupil dilated, and its aggressive stance softened slightly. Sarah felt her scientific mind racing. The crystalline structures on their heads, they had to be for something. Communication, control. If these were engineered weapons, there had to be a way to interface with them. "James," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos outside, "get me everything we have on crystalline neural networks. And contact Dr. Petal in quantum biology. We're going to need her expertise." "You can't be serious," James protested. These things are destroying our city." "No," Sarah replied, already moving to her computer. "They're showing us exactly what we need to know to stop this invasion. We just need to learn how to listen." As she began pulling up research files, another tremor shook the building. But this time, Sarah barely noticed. Her mind was already racing ahead, piecing together the puzzle. These creatures weren't just weapons. They were the key to humanity's survival. And somehow, she knew that the one outside her window had recognized this too. The next 48 hours would change everything. Humanity's future would depend not on defeating these magnificent creatures, but on understanding them. And as Sarah Chen began her work, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very weapons sent to destroy humanity might become their greatest allies in the war to come. What no one knew yet was that the real enemy hadn't even shown themselves. The Nexus Beasts, as Sarah would later name them, were just the beginning. The true architects of Earth's invasion were still waiting in the shadows, watching to see how their perfect weapons would perform. They never expected their creations to encounter someone like Sarah Chen, someone who could see past their terrifying exterior to the conscious beings beneath. Night had fallen over the ruins of San Francisco, but the Xenobiology Research Center blazed with activity. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her lab transformed into a makeshift command center. Holographic displays showed live feeds from around the world. Tokyo underwater, London in flames, Rio de Janeiro under siege. But it was the data streaming across her main screen that held her attention. The crystalline formations aren't decorative. She explained to the hastily assembled team of scientists, military personnel, and government officials connected via secure video link. They're quantum neural processors, possibly the most advanced computing system we've ever encountered. Behind her, through the reinforced windows, the massive form of the Nexus Beasts still hadn't moved from its position outside the lab. For hours, it had remained there, seemingly studying them as much as they studied it. They'd nicknamed it Atlas, after its imposing presence and unexpected role as a bridge between two worlds. Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm system from her lab in Mumbai. "The quantum readings are extraordinary, Sarah. These creatures aren't just receiving commands, they're processing, and more importantly, questioning them. The neural network is far more sophisticated than anything meant for simple control." "Which means," Sarah continued, pulling up a new set of diagrams, "whoever engineered these beings made them too well. They gave them the capacity for independent thought, possibly hoping it would make them better weapons. But they didn't account for the implications of true consciousness." Colonel Marcus Hayes, the military liaison, leaned forward in his chair. "Are you suggesting these things can be reasoned with? That's a hell of a gamble, Doctor." Sarah's response was interrupted by a sudden shift in Atlas's behavior outside. The creature's crystalline crown began to pulse with a rhythmic pattern of light, and its 6 eyes focused intently on the lab. The readings on Sarah's instruments spiked dramatically. "It's not a gamble," she said, moving closer to the window. "It's already happening. They've been watching us, learning about us. The attacks have been precise, strategic, but have you noticed? The civilian death toll is remarkably low for an invasion of this scale. They're deliberately avoiding unnecessary casualties." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a global map marked with attack patterns. "She's right. Look at the targeting algorithm. They're dismantling our military capability while preserving population centers. This isn't extinction, it's neutralization." Sarah pressed her hand against the glass, and Atlas moved closer, its massive head now just meters away. The creature's eyes cycled through colors before settling on that same deep azure she'd noticed before. The crystalline crowns pulsing synchronized with the rhythm of her heartbeat, visible on the medical monitors she wore. "They're reaching out," she whispered. "All this time, we thought we were studying them, but they've been studying us too, learning our languages, our patterns, our emotions." She turned to face the assembled officials. "I need authorization to attempt direct contact." The room erupted in protests, but Sarah held up her hand. "Look at the data. The crystalline structures aren't just processors. They're transceivers. They can receive and transmit quantum-entangled information. With Dr. Patel's quantum interface technology, we might be able to establish a direct neural connection." "You want to link your mind with that thing?" Colonel Hayes asked incredulously. "That's not just dangerous, it's insane." "What's insane is continuing to fight a war we can't win against beings we don't understand," Sarah countered. She pointed to Atlas. "That creature out there has been protecting this facility. Haven't you wondered why? It recognized something in me and us. It's been waiting for us to figure this out." Dr. Petal's voice cut through the tension. "The neural interface is ready, Sarah. I've modified it to match the quantum frequency of their crystalline networks. But the risks are nothing compared to the risk of missing this opportunity," Sarah finished. She began attaching the neural interface nodes to her temples. Whatever created these beings sent them here expecting destruction. Instead, they found something else, a species capable of understanding them, of seeing them as more than weapons. Atlas's crystalline crown brightened in response to the activation of the interface. The creature pressed closer to the window, its massive form blocking out the view of the devastated city behind it. "Dr. Chen," Colonel Hayes said, his voice softer now, "if you're wrong about this." "Then I'll be the first to know," she replied with a grim smile. "But I'm not wrong. These beings were engineered to be perfect predators, but their creators made one crucial mistake. They gave them the capacity to choose." As the neural interface hummed to life, Sarah felt the first tentative brush against her consciousness. It was like standing at the edge of an ocean, feeling the first waves lap at your feet. Then the connection deepened, and Sarah gasped as her mind made contact with something vast, complex, and undeniably aware. Images flooded her consciousness, stars she didn't recognize, worlds she couldn't name, and beings of pure energy who had shaped matter into living weapons. But more than that, she felt Atlas's own thoughts, its growing doubts about its purpose, its fascination with humanity's resilience, and its desperate hope for something more than endless conquest. Through tears of joy and wonder, Sarah opened her eyes to find Atlas's gaze fixed on her, all 6 eyes glowing with that same deep azure. The connection between them hummed with potential, and in that moment, she knew she had been right. These weren't just weapons to be feared or enemies to be defeated. They were bridges to a future no one had imagined possible. But in the depths of their shared consciousness, a warning pulsed like a distant alarm. The true enemy was coming, and they had precious little time to prepare. The bond between human and Nexus Beast would need to become something more, a partnership that would reshape the very nature of both species. The secure bunker beneath the Xenobiology Research Center hummed with activity as Dr. Sarah Chen faced the assembled world leaders on the massive view screen. 3 weeks had passed since our first neural connection with Atlas, and the world had changed dramatically. "What we're dealing with," Sarah explained, gesturing to the holographic display behind her, "is an invasion force created by beings we've termed the Architects. Through my neural link with Atlas, we've learned they're a species of energy-based entities who've spent millennia perfecting the Nexus Beasts as their instruments of conquest." Atlas lay curled around the bunker's perimeter, its massive form somehow making the space feel safer rather than more confined. 2 more Nexus Beasts, which Sarah's team had named Nova and Titan, stood guard outside. In the past weeks, more of their kind had broken free from the Architect's control, drawn by the quantum resonance of Sarah's successful connection with Atlas. Dr. Petal, now operating from the bunker alongside Sarah, pulled up new data streams. The neural interface technology has evolved beyond our initial expectations. Each successful connection creates a quantum entanglement network that spreads to other Nexus Beasts, essentially creating a cascade of awakened consciousness. On the screens, footage played from around the globe. In Beijing, a Nexus Beast helped clear rubble from collapsed buildings. In Cairo, another used its energy manipulation abilities to power emergency medical facilities. In Rio, 3 of the creatures worked in concert with military engineers to rebuild destroyed infrastructure. "But we're running out of time," Sarah continued, her expression grave. The Architects didn't just send the Nexus Beasts. They sent them as an advance force. Through our Neuralink, we've learned their true form of invasion is approaching. The beasts were meant to soften us up, to weaken our defenses and infrastructure. Instead, they've given us a fighting chance. Colonel Hayes, now a steadfast ally, stepped forward. "We've begun implementing Dr. Chen's integration protocols globally. Every major military installation now has at least 2 awakened Nexus Beasts working in concert with our forces. The combination of their biological capabilities with our tactical experience has produced remarkable results." Sarah placed her hand on Atlas's scaled hide, and the creature's crystalline crown pulsed in sync with her heartbeat, a sight that no longer shocked the observers. The Architects engineered the perfect weapons, but they failed to understand that consciousness cannot be contained. Every Nexus Beast has the capacity for independent thought, for choice. They chose to ally with us because they recognized in humanity something their creators lack: empathy. The neural link hummed, and Sarah's eyes briefly glowed with the same azure light as Atlas's. Through their connection, she accessed memories of the Architects, beings of pure energy who viewed organic life as nothing more than raw material to be shaped and controlled. The Nexus Beasts had been their masterpiece, but they had never considered that giving them the ability to learn and adapt would also give them the ability to question their purpose. "We've confirmed the Architect's arrival window," Dr. Rodriguez reported, bringing up astronomical data. 3 days. Their energy signature is already affecting our long-range sensors. Sarah straightened, her resolve visible in every movement. "Then we have 3 days to complete the integration of our forces." The Architects believed they were sending their greatest weapons to prepare Earth for conquest. Instead, they gave us the tools for our survival. Through her neural link, Sarah shared images of the defense plans they'd developed, strategies that combined human ingenuity with Nexus Beast capabilities in ways the Architects could never have anticipated. The creature's ability to manipulate energy fields would be paired with human electromagnetic warfare systems. Their quantum neural networks would enhance human cybernetic defenses. Their raw strength and natural weapons would be guided by human tactical expertise. "But our greatest advantage," Sarah continued, "is something the Architects dismissed as irrelevant: our ability to form true bonds. The neural link isn't just a communication tool, it's a bridge between species. Every connected human-beast pair strengthens the quantum network, creating a defense grid that spans the globe." Atlas rumbled in agreement, the sound reverberating through the bunker. Through their link, Sarah felt its fierce determination, not just to fight its creators, but to protect its new allies. The other Nexus Beasts around the world resonated with the same sentiment, their crystalline crowns pulsing in unified purpose. The architects are coming to claim their weapons, Sarah concluded, her voice steady and determined. Instead, they'll find those weapons standing alongside humanity, protecting a world that chose to understand rather than simply destroy. We have 3 days to prepare for the real war, not a war of conquest, but a war for the right of all conscious beings to choose their own path. As the meeting concluded, Sarah remained in the bunker, surrounded by the soft glow of Atlas's crystalline crown. Through their link, she felt the approaching storm, the architects' rage at their weapons' betrayal, their dismissal of humanity as worthy adversaries, their utter inability to comprehend the power of the bond that had formed between their perfect predators and their intended prey. But she also felt something else, hope. In giving the Nexus Beasts the capacity for intelligence, the architects had unknowingly created beings capable of evolution beyond their original purpose. In trying to engineer the perfect weapons, they had instead engineered the perfect allies, beings who could bridge the gap between organic and energy-based life, between conquest and cooperation. The war to come would reshape the galaxy's understanding of both humanity and the Nexus Beasts. But first, they had to survive it. Sarah squeezed Atlas's scaled hide gently, feeling its answering pulse of determination through their link. Together, they would face the architects, not as weapon and target, but as equals united against those who would deny them both the right to choose their own destiny. The revelation, the sky burned, not with fire, but with pure energy as the architects made their presence known. Their forms defied human comprehension, massive geometric patterns of light that twisted through dimensions humans couldn't perceive. Sarah Chen stood on the roof of the Xenobiology Research Center, Atlas by her side, watching humanity's first glimpse of their true enemy. "They're angry," Sarah broadcast through the quantum network that now linked all awakened Nexus Beasts and their human partners. Through their shared neural link, she felt Atlas's grim acknowledgement. The creature's crystalline crown pulsed with rapid patterns of light, sharing vital information across the global defense grid. Dr. Patel's voice crackled through the comm system. "The energy readings are beyond anything we theorized. They're not just beings of pure energy, they're living quantum processors. Everything they create, including the Nexus Beasts, is an extension of their consciousness." But that was their fatal flaw. The architects' quest for perfection had led them to create beings capable of quantum consciousness, believing they could control anything they created. They never considered that consciousness, once granted, would seek its own path. The first attack came without warning. Beams of pure energy lanced down from the geometric forms above, attempting to re-establish control over their creations. But the neural link between humans and Nexus Beasts had changed the quantum frequency of their consciousness. The architects' attempt to reclaim their weapons failed. Through the neural network, Sarah felt the architects' shock ripple across the planet. For the first time in their ancient existence, their perfect control had been denied. Their response was immediate and devastating. The sky itself seemed to tear apart as they unleashed their full power against Earth. But humanity and their Nexus Beast allies were ready. The final stand. Around the globe, paved humans and beasts moved as one. Atlas launched skyward, Sarah's consciousness riding with his, guiding his energy manipulation abilities with human precision. Other pairs followed suit, each beast's raw power enhanced by human creativity and tactical thinking. The architects had never faced anything like this unified resistance. Their energy weapons, designed to target either organic or quantum-based life, struggled against the hybrid defense presented by the human-beast pairs. Each attack was met with a coordinated response that combined human strategy with Nexus Beast power. Dr. Pitel's voice rang through the network. The quantum resonance is building. Their attacks are feeding our defensive grid, just like we theorized. Sarah felt it through her link with Atlas. Each energy blast for the architects was being absorbed and redirected through the crystalline networks of the Nexus Beasts, strengthened by the human neural links. The very weapons the architects had created were now turning their power against them. The final battle reached its crescendo above Earth's atmosphere. The architects, realizing their weapons had truly turned against them, attempted one last desperate assault, a concentrated burst of quantum energy meant to sever the neural links between humans and beasts. But the bonds forged between the species were merely quantum connections. They had evolved into something the architects couldn't comprehend, genuine partnerships based on mutual trust and understanding. The attack failed, and in that moment of desperation, the architects made themselves vulnerable. Sarah's voice rang across the neural network. Now, everyone together. In perfect unison, every human-beast pair on Earth channeled their combined energy through the quantum grid. Atlas led the charge, with Sarah guiding the massive energy wave. The architects' geometric forms began to fracture as their own quantum essence was disrupted by the combined power of their former weapons and the human consciousness they had dismissed as irrelevant. The sky exploded with light as the architects' forms collapsed, their energy dispersing harmlessly into space. In the aftermath, Sarah stood amid the ruins of San Francisco, her hand resting on Atlas's scaled hide, watching the sunrise on a changed world. The war was over, but the story of humanity and the Nexus Beasts was just beginning. The creatures were no longer weapons but allies, their extraordinary abilities now dedicated to helping rebuild Earth. More importantly, they were a living testament to a profound truth. True strength comes not from control, but from cooperation. Dr. Chen's final report to the United Nations would later note that the architects' greatest mistake wasn't in making their weapons too powerful, or even in giving them consciousness. Their mistake was in believing that power alone could triumph over the evolutionary advantages of empathy, trust, and genuine partnership. As Earth began its recovery, the Nexus Beasts and their human partners turned their attention to the stars. The architects had seeded other weapons throughout the galaxy, more conscious beings waiting to be awakened to their true potential. Together, humans and Nexus Beasts would venture into space, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Atlas looked down at Sarah, its 6 eyes glowing with that now familiar azure light. Through their neural link, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. They had turned an invasion into an alliance, weapons into partners, and fear into hope. The apex predators sent to destroy humanity had instead helped to elevate it, proving that the most powerful force in the universe isn't the ability to destroy, but the courage to trust and the wisdom to cooperate. The end of the invasion marked the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure, one they would share with their most unlikely allies, the very beings created to destroy them.